This is Your Other Brothers Podcast.
Living in the borderland. I don't feel like a boy, I don't feel like a man. Help me, holy Jesus, won't you show me how to live? I got monsters at my table, I got Bibles bent like shields. Help me, holy Lord, I see the light of heaven's porch, but so many of us are born here outside your chain link fence. Yeah, living in the borderland.
Welcome home, friends, to Your Other Brothers Podcast. We are a community navigating faith, sexuality, and masculinity together. My name is Tom, here in the Jewel of the Blue Ridge of Asheville, North Carolina. Joining me from the other side of the state, from the city of Oaks, it's my other brother, Ryan in Raleigh. What's up, Ryan?
Hello. Hi, Tom. Good to be here.
Good to have you with your zoomy camera. You guys, the camera is following Ryan wherever he goes, and he looks especially creamy today. I don't know, there's a creamy complexion.
Delicious.
Delicious. And joining us from the center of the state, the Queen City herself, it's our other brother, Matt. What's up, Matt?
All the queens. What's up? Hello.
What's up? Hello. Matt, you've got brownies in the oven, I hear, so we need to make sure you don't burn those.
About 4 minutes. I need to just step away for just a second and pull out the brownies. I added a little Reese's peanut butter chips to them, and I'm so very excited. It's hard for me to think of anything else, to be honest.
Oof, so good. Well, we look forward to those. Our listeners are excited to hear about those. We're back, y'all. We're back for another episode. We've got so much to talk about today. We're talking about church hurt, which I was telling Ryan just rolls right off the tongue. It's a great turn of the phrase. It's not a great thing, but it sounds cool. Church hurt. So we're talking about church hurt today. A lot of vulnerability from our yobbers. So appreciate so much good feedback here on this episode. Before we get going, y'all, I want to wish you and yours a happy Taylor Swift release day, week, whenever this was. It was very recently as of this recording. Do you guys have any quick hot takes on Taylor Swift : the life of a showgirl?
It's going to have to be you, Ryan.
No, Matt, you don't have any thoughts? When the Gaithers come out with another album, Matt is going to be ready for that.
Yeah, your turn, Ryan. I'll wait for the Gaithers.
I find myself enjoying it more than I think a lot of people that I talk to are. So I don't know what that means because I'm not in the upper percentiles of Taylor Swift fanatics. But I'm enjoying the first two tracks maybe, and then the last track. And then there are a few. There's some really great lines in a few of the songs that I just.
That's
really
one way
enjoy.
to put it. Great lines. Yeah. There's a song called Wood out there that has one of those lines. And I remember listening to this song Wood, which you can use your imagination what that means. And you're probably correct if you're using your imagination to think about what the song Wood is about. But when I first saw, I listened to the album the first night, and there was no lyric videos. It was just like the straight up song. And so when I was listening to it on YouTube, and when I heard a lyric in that song, I was like, is that what I think she said? And then a dear YouTube commenter, put the lyrics in the comment, and I read it, and I was like, whoa, that is indeed what Taylor Swift said. So you guys have to just I can't repeat it. We'll have to bleep. This will become an expletive episode.
I'm now interested in the album for the first time.
Check it out. There's a few bops in there. I'm not a huge Taylor Swift person, but I dabble in some T Swift. And you guys, maybe I'll have to share this link in the show notes, but there's this cute Canadian rapper boy, and he inserted his own little rap into several of her songs. And I am it's made me love the songs even more. So that's a little plug for, his name is Kalen. So if you check him out, Kalan, he's inserting his own white boy raps into Taylor Swift's songs, and they're pretty good. And the response I'm seeing in the comments is that they're really good too.
Is this the new Justin Bieber?
Maybe. I don't know. Yeah. He's really cool. I'm usually not drawn to rap, but he has a unique turn of the phrase, the way he put some lyrics into Taylor Swift songs. They were very intentional. So I liked it. So anyway, there's our hot take from three dudes who sort of like Taylor Swift and one who doesn't at all. But maybe he'll get into her. Who knows? Well, Matt, you and I are home from the 7th Yob retreat, and we're going to have a podcast coming with a special guest down the pike. So maybe a few weeks from now, there will be a retreat podcast where we'll kind of go into deeper detail. But Matt, you and I are back from the 7th retreat in Western Pennsylvania. It was a wonderful time. We missed you, Ryan. Ryan, this was first retreat you missed. And Ryan, we sent you a video, which I think you liked. I hope you liked. I hope it didn't make you more sad than happy. That was my fear, is that I sent a video of all of us. There's a retreat activity that is lore in our community. And so we were doing this retreat activity, and near the beginning of that activity, I recorded this little 10-second video of everyone standing up and waving to you. And I was like, I hope Ryan enjoys this, but I could also see this being like really sad. So tell the people, because so many people listening right now, we're in that circle, we're in that room. What did you think of our little video for you?
Tom, I didn't like it. I loved it.
Oh, okay. I was getting scared for a second. It's like you just ruined my Hawaiian vacation because you were in Hawaii at the time.
Yeah, I regrettably had to be in Hawaii, but yeah, I think I received that video and I did tear up, and I did miss everyone dearly. So thank you for thinking of me.
Yeah, we missed you too. Your presence was missed. But Matt, it was a good time. This is our first time we traveled to Pennsylvania, so it was cool to, for the vast majority of the year, we were assuming that we were going to have a lower turnout this year because like only 25 people were signed up for the majority of the year. And we usually average about 40, 45 at these events. So I was like, oh man, that kind of stinks. We were hoping to maintain our numbers, switching our location from the southeast to the northeast. But then the floodgates opened, everyone signed up at the last minute, and we maxed out. Basically, we had over 50 people there, our largest retreat ever. And so many new people coming from as far away as Vancouver on one side of the world and Scotland on the other side of the world. So it was kind of cool to see this like, that's so amazing to me that there's like this weekend of the year where people will change their schedules and conglomerate into one place to be together and then dispersing it. Like that's what a concept. And you've done this a few times now.
Yeah, this is my 5th one. So I got my 5-timers, Ryan, finally, and my 5 retreats later, still gay, Penn. And I haven't been healed yet. So don't come to the retreat if you're expecting reparative therapy. But I think what was cool is we had like almost 20 brand new.
Yeah, 17.
Yeah, guys. And I think it was really cool to watch them. Like a lot of them, it was their first retreat, but they weren't necessarily that new to the community. And so they all like seemed very connected. And I'm always amazed. 5 retreats in, I'm always amazed at people just, there's just so much unity. To me, I did a lot of kind of standing back and just watching all this different interactions. It's just not cliquey to me. It's not cliquey. It's definitely a community and a lot of love and appreciation for one another. And I thought it was cool to sit back and then see all the new guys too be loved on and prayed with, and lots of crying. No, maybe good crying.
It was a crying retreat. Yeah. Good tears this retreat. Yeah, so everyone stay tuned if you're curious. If you were there and you want to relive the retreat, and if you weren't there and you want to learn more about it, there's blogs and one podcast coming. I will not spoil anything. The only thing I was going to say, as Matt conveniently leaves to go check on his brownies, it actually works out well that I don't really want to explain this now, because we had this new activity where we determined, in our community, there are these candles you see. There are these candles in our community. And our themes from near the beginning were faith, homosexuality, and masculinity. And so I had the idea it's been like 2 or 3 retreats ago, to just like the store that we use creates these amazing candles, and you can put whatever you want on the label. Basically, they come up with these scents, and you can just put whatever you want on the label. And so there was these 3 different, at the time, I think there's more now, but at the time there were 3 different candles to choose from. And so I was trying to think, like, what could we call these 3 candles? Like, what in our community, what comes in 3s? And so the only thing I could think of were our topics at the time: faith, homosexuality, and masculinity. So I just stamped those on these candles, and I put the homosexuality on the candle that was the spiciest. Like it was like cinnamon and like other like spicy things. I was like, that feels like homosexuality. And so the homosexuality candle, if you be in our community a little while, you might hear that phrase tossed around. The faith and masculinity candles are secondary, I think, to the lore of the homosexuality candle. So we had a new system this year, which I think we'll talk about on our retreat podcast coming up in a few weeks, as far as how we determined who gets these candles. So I quite enjoyed it. I could see how some people might take issue with it, but we will cross that bridge when we get there. But it was another amazing retreat. We missed you, Ryan and Matt. It was great. We had so many. I mean, I wrote a blog already about it. I was just blown away by the contributions this year. Like more than any other retreat, we had people playing instruments and reading liturgies and setting up this and leading that activity. And so it was really cool to just see new tribe leaders, people leading our small groups. So it was cool to see just so many people stepping up and stepping into these roles, because this is the one-man show. This has never been a one-man show. That ship sailed a long time ago. So it takes a village for sure. And so grateful to all the Yobbers out there who helped me put on this retreat. It was a fantastic time. Can't wait to do it again.
You know what it looks like to me, Tom? It looks like so many people being in the community long enough where they've done a lot of healing, and then they're ready to help other people heal. So that's one thing I was thinking, is sitting back and looking at so many people contributing. I'm thinking, well, these people, like, God's done a great thing in their lives, like, so much processing, so much coming out, so much shame shedding. And now they're to this place where they are like, Henry Nouwen wounded healers. And there's just so many more of them. There's this concentration of healers and givers and ministers in our community, and they're all doing our job. So it's beautiful. It's fun, and a beautiful location, and beautiful men.
Well said. Well said. And I thought of you, Ryan, because, this was retreat 7 in the books, and that's really exciting. We're getting close to 10. And I threw it out there as a jokey joke, but kind of serious too. Just like big ideas, like, you guys, let's think big. What is number 10 going to be? And so I put out the idea, what would you guys say to a retreat on a cruise for our 10th retreat? And I thought about Ryan, that's like your brand now, is you take a cruise to, like, you were just in Hawaii, and there was a decent number that stood up. I don't know logistically, practically how that could work, or how well that would work. But it's fun to think about, like, to do something really big and celebratory for our 10th retreat. I saw your face light up.
No, yeah, I'm the listeners cannot hear, unfortunately, how big I've been smiling ever since you started saying this. I was like, I know where this is going, and you did. Am on board.
Ryan is literally on board. He's booked his ticket right now. He is
already
on the ship. Yeah. So who knows? We got a couple years before we get there, but we'll see. We'll see what happens for our 10th retreat. 7 in the books, though, not too bad. All right. Well, let's quickly get to some GGG, you guys. What do you say? We got God stuff, gay stuff, and guy stuff to talk about. These things have caught my eye. I thought we were light on the God stuff lately. Like, we need to inject some God stuff. And when you think of God stuff, you think of Nicolas Cage starring as Joseph, don't you?
Yes.
Continuing this, in a quote unquote Jesus horror movie called The Carpenter's Son. Are you guys familiar? Are you looking forward to this?
No, I am familiar with a recent horror movie involving a dog called Good Boy. So could this be similar? It's like there's Jesus and
maybe
good man.
So let me read you this story. I will provide links to all the things we talk about. Nicolas Cage is making a horror movie about Jesus, which is fantastic. That headline got me. I'm ready. I'm sucked in. It's an inescapable vortex. So yeah, this movie is going to be it's going to have an unapologetic horror twist on the story of Jesus's childhood. This movie is called The Carpenter's Son, and it's being described as a frightening reimagining of Jesus's adolescent years. And basically, basically it's inspired. Are you guys familiar at all by the Infancy Gospel of Thomas? Have you ever heard of this book? It's a non-canonical, so it is not in scripture, it is not in the Bible, but there is this book floating out there called the Infancy Gospel of Thomas, and I've heard about it off and on through the years, but like I'm sure one of many reasons it is not canonical and in our present day recognized scripture is that some of the stories in there about Jesus as a little boy are very like disturbing and frightening and like very strange. And I've heard these stories through the years. I had a couple pulled up. There's one about the clay sparrows. I thought this one was appropriate for our community because we are a community of sparrows, not clay sparrows, because you might be frightened by this story. But there's a story in this Infancy Gospel of Thomas where Jesus is about 5 years old playing by a stream, and he shapes 12 sparrows out of clay on the Sabbath. A Jewish man sees this and scolds him for breaking Sabbath law. Jesus then claps his hands and brings the sparrows to life, and they fly away chirping. Isn't that kind of weird? This story is also in the Quran. It's also in the Quran, which is so interesting to me.
I really want that to be true, to be honest.
And the sparrows come to life. Yeah, that one's kind of innocent and weird, but kind of disturbing also. A little 5-year-old Jesus making birds come to life. Because then I've heard this story before. There's one about a boy who bumps into a young Jesus while running. And then Jesus gets angry and says, quote, "You shall go no further on your way." And the boy immediately falls down dead. I'm thinking that's probably going to be in this horror movie and I'm sure Nicolas Cage will make a face and scream or something. I can't get over that Nicolas Cage is playing Jesus' dad.
But like as a child, he's playing Jesus as a child.
What part is he playing?
No, he's playing Joseph. He's the character.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No. Everyone out there is thinking he's the No, the person playing Jesus is the little boy from A Quiet Place. I don't know if you saw that movie, the John Krasinski horror movie. So he's used to horror, but he's never played a kind of a terrifying little Jesus. And then for those that I'm pretty sure in this story that, after confronted by Mary and Joseph, who scold a young Jesus, he raises the boy back to life. So the boy came back to life. He wasn't forever dead. But it's this weird book where it's like he's becoming conscious of his power, I guess, or something. And it's like he's like navigating how to do that. But obviously it doesn't jive with scripture. So like it's really controversial. I don't know. Would you guys see this? Would you guys see this movie? I'm intrigued. Am I allowed to be intrigued? Am I allowed to see this movie?
I would not see it, but not because of the content matter. It is more just like I'm just not a big movie person. Okay. So I'm not fundamentally opposed to like let's use our imaginations and explore the possibilities and try to try to make art about who God is, but but I just don't watch movies.
I will be watching.
Gotcha.
I will be watching this. Yeah.
Oh, good. Can we watch it? Can we watch it together?
Let's do it.
I would love that. Also, if you guys were wondering who's playing Mary, I know you were. I don't know this person. Do you guys know the musician and actress FKA Twigs?
I have her posters on my bedroom wall.
FKA Twigs. I love that Nicolas Cage is playing Joseph and FKA Twigs, whoever that is playing Mary.
Formerly known as Twigs. Okay.
Oh, is that what that means?
Yeah. I don't FKA.
So anyway, there's some God stuff for you. I know that's exactly what everyone was hoping to hear about, a Nicolas Cage Jesus horror movie. But Nicolas Cage, he did Left Behind, and now he's doing this. Who knows what the next Christianity turn for him is? All right, getting to the continuing saga of guy stuff. You guys, I can't stop talking about Corey Asbury and Forrest Frank because I keep thinking that the story's done. There's nothing else to talk about, and then it just keeps unfurling. And it just feels like for the continuity of this segment and this show, like I have to keep talking about it. And I'm hoping that this is the last time. But like they could do something tomorrow, and we got to talk about them again next month. So for those that need the catch up, these two Christian musicians, like one's a worship artist, one's kind of a hip hop rap kind of artist, and and they had this little beef, little squabble. Yeah, so Corey was like, making fun of Forrest's skateboarding accident. You guys remember that? And so they had this beef on social media, but then Corey apologized, and then they did a stream together, and then they felt bonded and renewed, and they're going to have each other over for dinner with their wives, kind of a thing. And they're going to collaborate on some musical projects. And I was like, oh, how sweet. These two Christians who are in contention with each other have found resolution. What a great end to that story. Well, then this actually connects with Taylor Swift, because there was great speculation for the last few months that Taylor Swift would be doing the halftime show at this year's Super Bowl, because, she's in a relationship. She's engaged now to Travis Kelce of the Kansas City Chiefs. And they dropped all these clues in one of her podcasts that she did that we were all speculating. I say we, I don't know. There were people out there speculating about her being announced as a Super Bowl halftime show performer for the Super Bowl. But that was not the case. Bad Bunny instead was selected as the Super Bowl halftime show. I don't know if either of you are familiar with Mr. Bunny. Are you familiar?
Only through SNL. I have never listened to a Bad Bunny song.
Oh yeah, SNL.
But
Pretty
only
funny
SNL.
Yeah.
Formerly called Bunny, is that right, Ryan? But then he had some church hurt. Now he's Bad Bunny.
He turned bad. Good Bunny gone
Bad Bunny.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, Bad Bunny was actually announced as the halftime show. And this created a little bit of a brouhaha in Christianity, because I don't know if he's the cleanest musician per se. There's a lot of just contentious feelings, I guess, about him being selected, which, this goes back years and years and years now. There was even a, shout out to another GGG representative, our Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. His suggestion for the halftime show was Lee Greenwood. He was like, you guys should select Lee Greenwood. Who sings that song? This is my hot take. One of the worst songs ever written. God Bless the USA. I cannot stand that song.
Oh, that song. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Lee Greenwood. Ryan's like, who is that?
So Mike Johnson wants Lee Greenwood to lead. Could you imagine Lee
Backed
Greenwood?
up by Squire Parsons and Guy Penrod.
Anyway, so to bring this full circle, so Corey Asbury and Forrest Frank, and I guess some of their Christian musician friends, they had the idea to put on a Christian or a clean, I think they used the word clean, a clean halftime show, and floating it out there. And I think they're doing it. I think they're making a clean halftime show. I don't know where it's going to be streamed or put on or whatever, but anyway, that's I think the final chapter in this saga is they've come together. Now they're producing a Super Bowl halftime show on their own little spin-off thing, I guess. But my question was to tie up this segment was who would be your ideal Super Bowl halftime show? Do you have one that immediately comes to mind where you're like, oh my gosh, I would watch that Super Bowl if I knew this person or this band was playing?
Well, Dolly Parton, of course, but SNL.
Oh, she'd be good. Yeah.
SNL did a sketch years ago where they gave a Broadway cast the Super Bowl halftime show. And if you ever get a chance to look it up, just SNL Broadway Super Bowl. And they come out with these high kicks, splits, and the Super Bowl. And it's really hilarious. So I would choose that.
I'm going with Huntrix, of course.
Yeah.
What is that? What is
Huntrix?
What is Huntrix?
Thomas Mark Zuniga. Have you seen K-pop Demon Hunters?
No. Oh, that's what that is. Yeah. I've heard all about that thing. I was like, okay, that's what that is. Huntrix. Okay.
Or, I can't say my boy Sufjan Stevens. I think he's a great musician. I would love to see him perform anytime in a venue, but I don't think he would be the right energy.
Let's make everyone cry for the Super Bowl.
Yeah. But one of my favorite high energy bands called Sub Radio. I think they're way too small to play the Super Bowl, but they're just super fun and just put on a good show.
Nice. So there you go, Corey Asbury and Forrest Frank. They're off into the sunset doing amazing things. I hope that's the last time I bring them up for a while, but you never know, you guys. The news keeps newsing, and so I'm just going to keep stay on their trail, see what happens next. I had another bonus guy stuff thing. I found this so adorable. I will post this in the show notes as well. But there's a young actor out of Britain called Owen Cooper. I don't know if you guys are familiar with or have seen the show Adolescence. I've seen clips of him. I haven't seen it, but I've seen clips of him like screaming, and he's just like super intense. But he's like this teenage boy, like 15 or 16 probably, and he just won the Emmy. He won the Emmy for whatever category, lead actor. He was either lead actor or supporting actor, one of those. And he like gave this little speech in his little cute little tux or suit that he was wearing on stage. But like leading up to that, or maybe it was afterward, I don't know. I saw this compilation of him and like all these interviewers asking him, like this was pre Emmys. They were all asking him like, who's your favorite actor? Who's your favorite actor? Who can you not wait to meet when you go to the Emmys? Because I guess this was his first time at the Emmys, being a breakout actor, and being only a teenager. And so his response, time and again, Jake Gyllenhaal, Jake Gyllenhaal, Jake Gyllenhaal. Jake Gyllenhaal is his favorite actor of all time. Why? I don't know. I don't. Going back to Taylor Swift, we got all kinds of connections here today. But he kept saying Jake Gyllenhaal, and they couldn't wait to meet him. And so then there's this video of a cameraman following Jake Gyllenhaal, and Jake Gyllenhaal is like going to meet Owen Cooper, and Owen Cooper doesn't know he's coming. Owen Cooper is just doing some other interview or whatever, just doing his own thing. And like Jake Gyllenhaal is like kind of nervous to like to like appear to like someone who views him as his hero, his acting hero, basically.
Aww.
And you guys, the video, you need to see it. Like when I post the link, or if you haven't seen it, the video, like when Owen turns around and sees Jake Gyllenhaal standing right there, like it is so sweet. They have a nice big hug. It is the sweetest little thing. I was like, that is guy stuff. That is the heart of this segment.
I love that.
Guy stuff right there.
Yeah. I have not seen that video. Please share the link. And I did watch Adolescence, though. Did you guys see it?
Oh, you did? I didn't see it. No, how was it? Give us your hot take.
It's just 4 episodes, and it is really brilliant, though. And so he was 13 years old when he filmed it, and I think the award is well deserved. But everybody in that show needs an award.
I think they did really well. Yeah, I think they did really well at the Emmys this year.
You just need to get yourself emotionally ready. Don't be fragile when you're trying to watch it, because it's heavy.
Me?
It's one of those things.
Fragile?
Yeah.
No. Okay.
One of those ones where when the credits come up at the end of the episode, you kind of have to just sit there for a minute and work through it.
I love that. I love to be spellbound by the credits. So there you go.
Intense.
Well, there you go. God stuff, gay stuff, guy stuff. And we'll be back next time with some more. We're moving to announcements now. It's already been put out there multiple times, but it's worth saying again, you guys, we are officially a 501c3 nonprofit organization, your other family. Woo! So exciting. This has been a long time coming. We've done all the paperwork. It took, many months, going back a couple of years of Zoom calls and spreadsheets and writing things down and submitting documents and paying for this and paying for that. So to get the IRS acceptance letter, I had the biggest smile on my face when I saw it. I don't know if anyone's ever had that happen before, when you see the letters IRS on an envelope, and I just had the biggest smile on my face, having a really good idea of what was inside. And sure enough, it was our beloved government. This was before it shut down. I don't know if it would have happened before our government shut down here in America, but we got this right before it shut down. And I guess that's a good timing, because we got approved. Your other family is now an official 501c3. All donations given are tax deductible, and any donations given retroactively this year also tax deductible. So really excited about that. Grateful for all of our members who are still supporting us, and grateful for all the outside gifts that have come in too. We're in our end of year push to get these funds to come in. So if you've never given, if you've been waiting for the clock to change and for our status to become official, there you go. There's your sign. So we appreciate all gifts to our organization. This is funding your other brothers. It's funding your other sisters as well. It's all of our community events, all of our content. And so we're excited to see where the journey leads next. Mr. Chair, how do you feel about our organization being official now?
It feels really, really cool. And to be honest, it's a little bit daunting too. It feels like a big deal. And so I'm excited, and there's a great team to work with. So onward towards 2026.
Yes. We got to make a new budget here soon. Dang. We got some tasks ahead of us, but this is a big step in the journey. So thanks to everyone for your support, for your prayers, and appreciate all the gifts from all sorts of places. It's been really cool. All right, and now moving into our sponsorship. Last episode, you guys, the more I've thought about this, the more grateful I am. The fact that we got Michelangelo's blessing for the episode on masculine beauty, that we were able to, give a shout out to his creation, his beautiful creation of the David. I was just like, wow, God is truly with us. But church hurt is on the other side of beauty, and we got to give a shout out to maybe not something as magnificent as Michelangelo's David, but still worthy of some acclaim. But this sponsor for this episode on Church Hurt goes to Bad Church Art. And particularly, there's a church group that I go to, not my church, thank goodness, but we used to meet in this room where there was like a Walmart. It was like a Walmart Last Supper, basically. It looked like a Walmart Last Supper, clearly not done by Da Vinci, where all the disciples and Jesus are on one side of the table. And like the dimensions of the table and the floor are just so off. And like the walls it looks like you're in a fun house or something. And like there's literally a guy in my men's group, I'll name him Jay. So shout out to Jay if he's listening. He would literally sit on the opposite side of the room so he wouldn't have to look at that church art for the entire group, because it would just, he said it just would drive him crazy, was his language for that. And I've noticed this when you go to certain churches, you look, depending on how old the church is, or even some of the newer churches, bad church art knows no bounds. You can go to Hobby Lobby and find a lot of bad church art or a Hobby Lobby adjacent store. I don't want to call out Hobby Lobby. They're my brothers and sisters in Christ. But I just was like, I'm grateful. It just adds character. I love character in things. So thank you, Bad Church Art. We are God's masterpieces. It doesn't mean the art in the building is, but we are his masterpiece.
I'm so thankful for this sponsor because the Inquisition did not return our calls.
Inquisition. Yeah, we are not sponsored by the Inquisition or the Crusades or any sorts of things of that nature. Yeah. Yes. But yes, we are talking about church hurt today, which is a raw subject. We have lots of jokey laughs and things, but this is a raw subject. The Yobbers came through as they always do. They really answered the prompts that I gave, which were really simple. Basically, the first prompt was, how have you experienced hurt in the church? Particularly due to some aspect of your sexuality, but also for any other reason. And this could be church from a local institution or a greater denomination or institution. It could be from individual leaderships, or it could be from fellow believers in the pews beside you. And then the flip side of that, how have you experienced healing in the church as well? There's the hurt, and then there's also the healing. And I just feel like this is such a ripe topic that I don't want to beat around the bush and say, there's a lot of hard stories today, but my hope for this episode is that we don't just pile on the church, because I think it's a really easy thing to do, is just pile on the church for all that they've done wrong, or all that we've done wrong not that we're perfect people either, but I think what's really cool about our community and episodes like these is an opportunity to like hear someone else's story and be like, oh gosh, I either went through something exactly like that or really similar to that. And so I understand what they're going through, and or I feel less alone and feel maybe reassured that I am not as isolated as I thought I was with this particular situation that I went through in the church. And then there's also the hope that all that is wrong will be made right one day, and that we'll all experience healing, if not on this side of eternity, on the other side for sure. But yeah, I just wanted to read a few of these, and then I'll bounce back and forth with Ryan and Matt for the next 45 minutes or so, and we'll talk about the hurt and the healing that comes with being a part of a church. Are you guys ready to go through the feedback with me? Matt, how are your brownies? Are they okay?
They're cooling right now. Yeah, they're so
cooling.
Perfect. I'll give you an update again in a few minutes.
I was going to say, please enjoy a nice ripe brownie while we're going through church hurt to be able to stomach it as we go through these stories.
Yeah, I might take Zoom on the road, and then I'll see you for a brownie in 2.5 hours, Matt.
Oh yeah. I'll be waiting.
Yeah, there you go. Well, let's just start off with a bang. Someone said this: I remember sitting in church, listening to the pastor refer to the LGBT community as "quote unquote" the alphabet people, and describing how wonderful heaven will be because they will not be there. That's horrible.
Wow.
Yeah, that's very heavy. I will say the Alphabet People is kind of funny.
A great band name.
Ooh, let me write that down. Yeah.
Like, where's my invite to go on Sesame Street?
But that stuff like that is one of the reasons that a lot of guys in our community, had a really hard time identifying their own sexuality. I know that's the case for me because it was portrayed in a lot of churches as, gay people were anti-God and, had really brought on their sexual perversion through, just poor choices or abuse. You've heard all the things. And so little Matt's sitting there thinking, oh gosh, I've been in church my whole life and I love the Lord, so, and he loves me. I'm not an alphabet person. Am I? It takes people a long time when you hear stuff like that.
Yeah. No, I just remember never once, despite knowing in the back of my mind, or a lot of times in the front of my mind, that I'm definitely attracted to boys and not at all to girls. Like, there was nothing in me that could make the connection that I am an alphabet person, that I am an LGBT person, that I am gay. I would have never used that word for years and years and years because what the message that was taught was like, yeah, those people are the worst ever. And so it makes me wonder today. And I think there is a difference today with kids growing up in the church. It's just a different culture, different language, different messages, maybe in certain parts of the country, not so much, but I just know that, I just wonder how my life would have been different if I had not heard that message for years and years, if not decades, about how bad those people were. And so it forced me to not really consider my own sexuality for many years. One of our yobbers said, I've grown up in conservative church culture my entire life, both in the South and on the West Coast. Unfortunately, church hurt and I have a lengthy history together, especially in regards to my sexuality. The church I grew up in taught me that, quote unquote, the gays were to blame for the downfall of society and education, which was said by my Bible study leader to a group of middle and high school kids, a good handful of whom would come out as gay or queer later in life. Love how that happens. He continues, when I confessed my struggles with gay lust in that same group, I was called into the pastor's office and then told to be more careful about what I said around the quote unquote younger kids, because they were getting concerned parents calling as a result of my vulnerability. Instead of being helped, I was silenced and told to not talk about my struggle. And I'm just going to interject here, like, what a gift that would have been, like, for all these comments. And I'm sure so many people out there listening can resonate with, like, growing up in a church or in a youth group where you didn't talk about sexuality or certainly homosexuality, like, to have someone who would be so brave to share about what he's going through, and to then just be shot down and say, don't do that. Don't talk about, he even phrased it like, he said it wasn't about being gay. It was like gay lust. So specifically talking about gay lust, which I think is just as bad as straight lust, right? I think. Matt's not sure. Ryan's shrugging. Yeah. I think all the lust is the same, I think. But anyway, he also went on, he shared a couple stories, and the other one I wanted to read from him was his last church. So he said, my last church dealt hurt in the form of failing to support my desire to help them build a ministry to serve the LGBTQ plus community of our city, sidelining me while allowing others to serve and take the lead on new ministries. Leadership's refusing to let their church become a quote unquote home base to minister to the broken, the queer, the divorced, AA, etc., and becoming an unsafe place where I felt unseen and unsupported. I left that church disappointed in the leaders that I looked up to and was sad that they were unwilling to walk alongside me. My heart goes out to him because, like, I started a group at my church that meets, it's been meeting for 5 years now. And like, I've heard, and like, Ryan, I know you've done something similar with your church, and so many people in our community have done similar things, starting a local group, trying to replicate what we have found in online circles like your other brothers or elsewhere, and doing it face to face in a localized community. And I just think that's such an awesome thing. And it's always been in the back of my mind, like, all these stories of hurt out there, being rejected by saying you can't do this, or don't bring those people here, or whatever. Like, I've heard this again and again and again. And it's almost like been this like like I've had to like play with this in my mind because my church has been amazing. Like they're like, when can you start? You know, do it tomorrow. Like do it today. Like they've been amazing. Shout out to my church. Like they've just been so great. But I hate that there's always this thing in the back of my mind, like when is the hammer gonna fall? Because of all these other stories out there, it's like when is the infection gonna reach like my church or something? And it's almost like this inherited like fearing for the worst, because I've seen it happen again and again to so many people who have been disappointed. And so I'm trying to like be grateful and not forecast the hurt that other people have experienced at their churches onto mine, for instance. But yeah, it's hard. It's hard when there's so many out there that it feels natural to assume that it could, to at least be open to the idea that it could happen. You know, if there's a change in leadership or a new family joins the church or a new whatever, you know, that's, you know, something that I always have to keep in check in my own life. So someone else said this: the hurt I've experienced regarding sexuality has mostly come from silence or inexperience on the topic, leaving me feeling like there's no space for my struggles. I once attended a porn addiction program at my college church, and when the leader said that anyone with same-sex attraction might not be a good fit, I decided to leave. See, it's so funny. Funny is not the right word, but we just like the fact that someone else used that exact phrase, that you are not a good fit. Like that is wild. Someone else, or he continued actually by saying, other times I've heard sermons about sexuality that focused heavily on sin. While I agree theologically, I left feeling shame because it seemed there was little acknowledgement that people wrestling with these issues still carry dignity and deserve love and care from the church. I've also felt hurt through family experiences, like when my mom was excommunicated from our small church without any real conversation. More recently, I've been hurt when churches seem unwilling to receive feedback or support members who want to help the community grow. Conversations about building authentic community can sometimes make people feel attacked rather than heard. In all of these experiences, the hurt has often come from feeling like the needs of the body aren't being met and that change feels out of reach. Yeah, that's got to be so hard, so frustrating to feel like you have part of the solution, like to help whatever the situation is in a church, and then just to be shot down or to say you're not a good fit or you don't belong here for that. Like, gosh, that's rough. All right. This Yobber said, my partially hidden sexuality wasn't the only thing that made me an outsider growing up, but it definitely contributed to me being pretty isolated in church circles. The most direct thing, one time when I was working at a sort of anti-porn ministry, we were discussing a new logo, and I suggested that it might have some unintentional phallic resonances. It was built around a big ol' arrow, and we were an anti-porn ministry. It's a commonly expressed concern in graphic design circles from what I hear. My boss, who knew about my story and had never seemed bothered about it, said, the phallic spirit, quote unquote, can make anything look like a penis. We're not going to worry about that. Anything else? Mostly, if it just felt gaslighty and like an unearned shutdown. But I would have liked him to be more sensitive about who he was talking to, and it doesn't seem unlikely that his knowledge of my situation influenced his comment. Unrelated to my sexuality, lots of bad psychological teaching that messed me up in various ways for a while. Phrases like bounce your eyes or be exhaustingly on fire for Jesus, an overemphasis on quote unquote kingdom work, the aspect of Christian life. And God doesn't like you, but he loves you. So, man, the phallic spirit.
Oh, that last one.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was focused on the phallic spirit.
Oh gosh, the last one just stabs me in the heart, because the amount of freedom and liberation and just like the renewal of my life when I realized God doesn't just love me, he likes me, is like, yeah, I can't imagine, like, just being told the opposite is like,
I guess it's because it's like he doesn't like your sin. Is that like the context for that, you think?
Right. I think the point is like a love the sin or hate the sin situation, but right. Like no one ever felt more loved when they heard that, right? And also, like, no. You know, I don't care, Tom. If I know, like, I don't care whether you love me or not. What I actually care about is whether you like me or not. You know, like, right. Yeah.
I have to love you as my brother in Christ, but
right. What does that even mean? I don't know, but I know I want you to like me.
I like you,
and
I like both of you.
What a great day when you finally let yourself off the hook to not have to be on fire, right?
Exhaustingly on fire.
Don't you turn off.
Like exhausting for you or exhausting for the people around you?
I remember. Do you remember this phrase? I heard this so much. Yeah. And then, of course, Then, of course, back to the phallic spirit. Phallic is
Lord, we rebuke that phallic spirit.
Every guy under 25 and under has that spirit, you know? They see penises and draw penises everywhere. Like the number one, what's the word I'm looking for?
Penis?
Graffiti.
Oh.
The number one subject of all graffiti globally, right, is born of the phallic spirit.
And Matt, you work at a high school, so I'm sure you understand this deeply.
Oh,
yeah.
How many
everywhere?
Yeah. How many penises and testicles do you see on a regular basis?
Drawn.
Yeah.
Drawn. Yeah.
Drawn everywhere on everything, right?
I remember being in school, in high school, and kids would, like my classmates would draw. I'm like, why? Why are you drawing that? It makes no sense. I still don't get. They had the phallic spirit, clearly, because I just don't get it. Why would you draw that in your notebook?
Listen, I didn't get it until tonight. I didn't realize that spirit was a thing. But that is what's motivating all these young men with their vulgar graffiti.
Oof.
And this arrow logo.
Yes. Someone else said this: I was shunned by many in my local church and small groups after I came out. Once I was trying to explain my unique position as a side B gay Christian and started explaining to a ministry leader, quote, I don't know what to do with these homoerotic feelings. The ministry leader quipped back, quote, you just can't have them and be a Christian at the same time. And that led me to shut off any further conversation with him about my sexuality and really most other subjects. And then he talks about going to a Bible study, and someone else quoted this: just ask the Lord to remove it and he will. And he probably meant that in a helpful way, but to me it was just dismissive. You know, something that I did as I was compiling all the comments today for this episode is that I bolded like all of the quotes that people told our community members. And I might try to like turn that into, I might like ask ChatGPT to maybe turn that into a graphic or something. Cause there's so many quotes that like direct quotes that people gave me. And like, you know, I just read off 2 of them. It's like, yeah, I just wonder what that would look like to see it in like a cartoon graphic or something. Like I'm visualizing what that could look like. But yeah, there's just some hurtful messages that have been sent over the years.
Compiling that, Tom, might be really helpful for people to see, like on the website or somewhere.
Yeah.
That people could look through. Our community has heard this, and like I said, not to get stuck there and not move towards healing, but to sit there in that moment and feel it and acknowledge, you know, that your feelings are valid and that you've been hurt, which is step 1, right?
And I say ChatGPT, but if there are any graphic designers out there who would love to do that for me, I think that could be an interesting project. If there are any actual humans out there, in addition to our ChatGPT 4th co-host that's out there.
You know, this makes me think a little bit about, so at work, I'm facing a difficult engineering problem and there's just not really a good solution, but I have to do my best. But there's lots of not good enough solutions. And as I'm kind of like bouncing ideas off of various coworkers, like often they'll be like, oh, I Googled this briefly. What, have you tried this? And I have to be like, yes, I did Google that, in fact, and this is why this wouldn't work. And this happened to me for like the 10th time the other day. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I just need to compile a list of all the things that I've already like considered, you know, like this. Anyway, I'm making reference to this comment of like, oh, well, have you tried praying about it? You know? Like,
oh my gosh, I never thought about that.
What? Oh, I think that's how I can cure my depression too. Maybe, you know.
Have you tried dating a girl? Have you tried?
Yeah. Like maybe we just need, at the next retreat, we can create like handouts that we can like then pass out to people we know with like, yes, I've tried this, or this, or I'm not just interested in this, or this because of that, you know, like the frequently asked questions, the answers to frequently suggested.
Yeah, and people mean so well, but they're newer to it, right? And so they say things like that. Yeah, for sure. Like when I lost anything as a child, I'd say to my mom, "Mom, I can't find this," and she'd say, "Well, honey," and I just knew what was coming. She'd say, "Honey, when's the last time you had it?" And I'm like, "Well, if I remembered that." You know what I'm saying? We wouldn't be talking about this. And it's that same kind of thing.
Oh, retrace my steps? I didn't even think about that. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I have to retrace where I was.
You're right. People mean well, but they don't, it's like this is the first time they're having this conversation, but it's like the 53rd time you're having it. And I think people don't really realize that.
Yeah. Hopefully there's some grace to go back to people who mean well, but other times it's just, it can be really, really hurtful. Someone else said this: in my almost 28 years of being in the church, I've been connected to 13 different churches. I am a pastor's kid, but unfortunately, my family has seen almost exclusively the ugly side of churches. 8 of the 10 churches my dad has pastored at have kicked him and our family out. I won't go into every detail, but one of the worst ones happened just before my dad's first deployment to Afghanistan. He was told, quote, "When you come back, you will no longer have a job here." This left my family completely isolated during the worst seasons we've experienced collectively. In a parallel situation, as I have become more and more open about my story, church number 12 for me made me feel unwelcome to the point of needing to leave. People raised quote unquote concerns about me to the pastoral team because of my clothing on stage, but never actually sought to have a conversation with me. That was during a time when I had lost a significant portion of former community, was experiencing some deep spiritual pain and wrestling with God. I thought I had good relationships with people there, but ultimately this experience revealed many people's true colors, including some of the pastors at this church. Yeah, the first thing I think about is God bless this Yobber who still has a faith to continue going with, and still believes in a church community and like hasn't been just totally turned off to it. Cause like, man, I just can't imagine the sheer numbers of that. Like how many times you've been forced to start over and find a new group of people to collectively call your brothers and sisters and like that to me is, man, shout out to this Yobber. Similarly, we have a lot of people with a lot of history, younger and older. That one was only 28 years old, but this one from the early 80s to the early 90s, I was kicked out of 3 different churches in 3 different cities because of my sexuality. In all 3, I was betrayed by the people I trusted. And then he says this: "It's my fault because I foolishly believed that since they were Christians, trust wouldn't be broken." Tom speaking here. I was like, I don't think it's your fault, dear fellow Yobber. To trust your brothers and sisters in Christ who failed you. But anyway, I'm going to continue with his comment. I also had an incident within a month of becoming a Christian in the first church. I was 17 and I was the only Black person in the church. I joined the high school choir and liked this girl. I gave her a birthday card. She told the choir director, who told the associate pastor, who came to my house and read the verse in the Bible that talks about being unequally yoked. He asked me if I knew what that meant. Being a new Christian, I told him no. He explained to me that it meant that Black people and white people shouldn't be together. I later found out that's not what it meant. He said, this is the same Yobber who's provided comment. We love him. He's provided these like just super dry comments and he just continues on.
And then this girl went out and murdered someone.
Yes. I don't think he would mind. Like that is who we were talking about. And then he also said this: there was a 4th church that I ended up leaving because of its members. In 2018, I had my first stroke. I was in the hospital for 17 days and no one came to visit me until the 10th day. And that was only because my mom called the church office and asked why no one had visited me. The next day, the pastor and associate pastor came to see me. The pastor was on his phone the entire time, and I didn't even care that he came. Neither them nor anyone else visited the remaining time I was in the hospital. And then he talks about just like, feeling, essentially just being like ignored, rejected in such a vulnerable state, which is just heartbreaking too. Yeah. A lot of the stories shared in this episode reference sexuality, and some of those do, but there's just all kinds of reasons. Like, I guess Christians will find all sorts of reasons to not be Jesus, and again, I don't want to come across as holier than thou, as if I'm the perfect example of Christianity, but it's brutal. It's brutal to read all these stories in succession.
And thinking about what this Yobber shared, it reminded me, I was thinking this afternoon, like, do I have church hurt in my past? And nothing like these guys are sharing, for sure. I was in the same church for my entire life until I was like 22 years old. Which has not been the case in my adulthood, but it was in my childhood. And I was thinking, I have wonderful memories of that church, but it was one of these Southern independent Baptist, fundamental, judgmental, independent, Baptist churches where we didn't smoke, drink, cuss, or chew. And we definitely didn't have sex standing up because that might lead to the worst sin of all, dancing. Anyway, and so it made me think of what this guy's talking about. Is I look back on the church, I feel like there was so much compassion in the church for suffering. There was a lot. I mean, there were people, when someone would die, the meals flooded, home visits, cards. When someone was struggling with cancer, I mean, it was just so much love and support, I remember, around somebody struggling, but not as much compassion for somebody sinning. Do you know what I mean? Struggling, yes. Sinning, no. I remember things like a man would be unfaithful to his wife, and the comment was, wow, I thought he was one of the good ones. And it's like, back then I didn't analyze it, but I got older and I remember things like that. And I'm like, Lord have mercy. He was a sinner like the rest of us. Like, weren't we all just struggling? It was a situation. And when that happened, I don't remember anybody coming back and being restored. You just had to pack your bags and leave. Like, that was it. Now, if you got cancer, you didn't have to. But if you had a DUI, you had to get out. And so, and I feel like I was surrounded, though, by people who were really hurting, all hurting, but we couldn't say it to one another because, and I'm almost done with this filibuster, because there was this misinterpretation of sanctification, that it was linear, that it was all up, and that the old things have all passed away. Everything has become new. We are now living in the glorified state, and our temptations are gone. We may get angry. We may slip out a little 4-letter word here and there, but the things we used to do, we don't do them anymore. But the reality was, we were all dealing with hurts and longings. And there were some of the alphabet people sitting around me in my class at Christian school, and alphabet people, and I was there. And so, yeah, my point is, I think that's where a lot of people carried a lot of the shame and really, judgment around. And that's a whole other podcast. It's a whole other subject. But I think that's what this reminds me of, is a place where you can't struggle. And that's the opposite of what church should be.
Yeah. It's almost like, you can get cancer and get help, but you can't watch porn, or you can't have an affair, or you can't get divorced, or, but then this Yobber would disagree and say, well, I had a stroke and I didn't get the help that I needed, and so he would probably beg to differ on that front too. But yeah, it's rough. Here's one that I wanted to land on for a little while, because I feel like this one's super relatable, super short. But he said this: the church where I grew up in just didn't talk about sexuality, let alone homosexuality, at all. In an attempt to be seeker friendly, which they are, the church avoided sensitive topics. Great for unity in church, but not so great if you struggle with your sexuality. Do you guys resonate? Is that part of your church story? Because that's definitely mine. I was like, I heard nothing about this stuff and didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
It's almost like a hurt of neglect, basically.
Yeah. The church I grew up in was really great in a lot of ways. And I feel like I hear just terrible stories of other people's experiences in like youth group in like the early 2000s. But I really look back and I feel grateful for a lot of my like youth group experiences growing up. However, I do look back and I feel disappointed and neglected when I think of how little space our church leadership created for me to start to ask the question, like, what does it mean to be gay and follow Jesus? I think if I had the thought about myself, I'm gay and I need to figure out how I'm going to follow Jesus in this life, I think if I had the capacity to put those words together into a question, it would have been safe, I think, to ask my youth pastor that. But they didn't even like give me the words to ask the questions. And so like, I think one thing that I would really want our churches to grow in is to understand, like, it doesn't matter how safe you are, like for a a kid in your church if you don't give them the words to ask hard questions. Like, I don't know how better to put it than that.
Yeah, that's very, very interesting, Ryan. Like, you just to not bring it up, like you said, Tom, the neglect, the silence, even if it's not necessarily like a sermon series, it's somehow incorporated into the teaching. We're all kind of a similar age, and it's amazing. You think back about the 80s and the 90s, the early 2000s. Where were there books about this? Where were there weren't podcasts? Where were the revoices and the YOFs and all that stuff?
Mm-hmm.
It just wasn't a conversation that who was having it. Somebody was having it, I suppose, and has had it through in the past 2000
right. So it's like
years, but it just wasn't in
yeah. So it's like that produces some level of empathy. It's like you don't know what you don't know. Like how our church is going to talk about this if they don't have resources, but that doesn't put them off the hook entirely. But it's just a different culture now, and there are practically more resources today than there have ever been. But it's tricky.
There were gay Christians.
Yeah. It makes you wonder why did you not go into your Christian bookstore that every town had back then? Do you remember those?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And why was there not a little Christian card with a little rainbow on it or something? I don't know. Like, people who were around,
right.
Just interesting time in our culture.
Yeah. I do lay it at the feet of previous generations that I didn't have anyone to look up to.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, here's a doozy, y'all. Settle in for this story. I was more or less banned from missions as a result of my sexuality. I was a teenager at the time and heavily involved with the missions department at my church. I had gone on many international missions at this point. The farthest I had been with the church was India. I realized I was bi around the time I was 17. I came out to a few of my close church friends, almost as a test to see how the rest of the church would take it. My friends were more accepting of my sexuality, so I started to make it more public. I wasn't shouting it from the rooftops or anything. I just didn't bother to hide it anymore. It quickly became common knowledge. We just didn't talk about it. Fine by me, I guess. Most of the people outside of my circle of friends I told initially were only acquaintances anyway. When I was 21, another missions opportunity arose for me. It was a short-term trip to Scotland to work with an orphanage our church sponsored. I applied for the trip and shortly after got a text from our college and 20s pastor. He said he wanted to meet for coffee and talk about the trip. A small part of me wondered if I was in trouble for something, but I couldn't think of anything, so I agreed to meet him. We met and started talking about the trip. He mentioned that he had heard that I was self-identifying as bisexual. I didn't deny it and explained that my position on the subject to him, that it was not something I celebrated, but rather something I struggled with. He went on to say a lot of the boys in the orphanage were also, quote, struggling with homosexuality. At first I thought, oh, I guess I'm uniquely qualified for this. He's going to ask me to co-lead. Instead, what he said was, quote, I don't think missions are for you, especially this one. We just don't need someone like you being a bad influence on them. I was devastated. I was speechless. I felt so alone in that moment. I couldn't even go to my family for comfort because I wasn't out to them yet. I told some of my friends about it later, and they were there for me. It was still so disheartening for me to be told by a pastor that the thing I felt God was calling me to at the time was, quote, not for me because of something beyond my control. Oof. And that was the first one I read today where I just felt my heart sink a few levels. When you have someone who's like, well, I mean, I can't imagine. I've never done that. I've never gone to an orphanage. I have no idea what that vibe is to go to. Like, you have somebody who's willing to go to a place like that, like an orphanage, and being told that he can't go there because of something, his sexuality, something that he never chose, something that he has no bearing on. And it's just, man, I just tore me up reading that comment. I never followed through on this because I back in my late 20s, I think it was, or mid to late 20s, I applied for a missions program. I had never done a missions trip, and like I filled out the application, and I was like sort of getting excited about it and sort of feeling like this might be something God was prompting me to do. And I remember filling out the application. At this time, I was becoming more open about my sexuality. It was my mid 20s. I think I had written my book by this point, my first book. So there was no reason to hide it, and it would have felt deceitful if I did. because there was a specific question on the application, like, have you ever experienced or struggled with, and then this huge list of pornography and, all the things. And then homosexuality was one of the options. And so I had a moment of decision to be like, do I check that box? Because I could conveniently not, but I don't know how exhaustive they're going to like research me or Google me or click around. Cause I feel like I didn't have Your Other Brothers at the time, which made my name super Googleable, but still wrote a book about it. And so I feel like they could have found it pretty easily. So I figured I wouldn't hide it, and I checked the box and had a phone interview. I had a phone interview with this guy. I don't know who this was or where he was, but I had a phone interview with this guy with this missions organization. And he was like, Tom, can we just invite the Lord into this moment? I'm sure he does that with every interview. It wasn't specifically because I quote unquote struggle with homosexuality, but we prayed before that. And then we proceeded to talk about it. And, I think it went as well as it could have gone, as I told him, like he asked me to explain and to tell him about that. And so I did. But I don't know, the whole thing just left a really sour taste in my mouth. Like I withdrew my application after that. And I just didn't feel like I don't want to do this. I don't want to put myself out there anymore. I don't want to, it's almost like I don't want to even go down the road of knowing what the answer is going to be. Cause I truthfully don't even know if I would have been accepted or not based on that response. Like I could have very well not been. I don't know. I don't know the answer to this day, but I couldn't go through with it. I was like, this is just too weird, too awkward. I was still too new in my little journey of stepping out. So I withdrew that because, man, that story there just brought that story back. I haven't thought about that in a long time.
It makes me think, you guys know that all I ever wanted to do from the time I was a little like Billy Bible thumping teenager was to work in ministry. And so I did. I was so grateful. I worked at a little church in Northern Virginia, and I wouldn't trade those 4 years for anything. But during those 4 years is when I really began to suspect my sexuality was different, right? And so I had to face that in the 2000s when that was. And I thought to myself, there's no place for me in ministry. And I think things have changed quite a bit now. I mean, not radically, maybe, but some. But 20 years ago, I was like, okay, so, wow, no more ministry. And so I needed that. God knows I needed to put down the microphone in my 20s, and I needed to do a lot of work and learning. And God's taught me so much in 20 years. And he does that for all of us somehow, some way. But I look back on that, and that was very, very hard to say, okay, I guess I won't work at a church. I guess all these years, that's what I've wanted to do. I guess I won't. That's what I'm not supposed to do. Can you imagine? I was just so confused. And it's around your situation, Tom. You're like, I just want to serve in the mission field, or I want to serve in missions, but I guess I can't. I guess I shouldn't serve. That's so conflicting, right? And it's really amazing how much, to your point, Ryan, about having somebody help you navigate that, to think about you, teenagers sitting at your church and feeling that. Does it not make you just want to put your arms around them and say, listen, like you are uniquely equipped to one another, somebody in the kingdom of God. You are not disqualified from being in the contributing.
Well, and also I just think about how some of the most, or maybe the most, like loving and courageous and wise people I know are side B gay Christians, queer Christians. And I think that there's so much just like goodness of the gospel that we have to steep ourselves in, that it's just wild to me that then like people are just offhandedly rejected from ministry.
I have hopefully this doesn't make you angry about this comment I'm about to read next. Because like the way that you said it, the way that you just put it, Ryan, like so many guys in our community, specifically the greater, side B world, like just so many sweet, just caring, empathetic, understanding because of what we've gone through and the things we've had to hide and conceal and process and conversations we've had, like so much empathy, so much sweetness in our community, and how that can be received in a completely different way for other people. So let me read this comment. Someone said this: I was working at a summer job in Colorado and attended a local community church there. The preaching was sound and the worship was sincere. It was a nice spiritual home away from home. One Sunday, during which my parents happened to be in town for a visit, the pastor finished his sermon and opened the floor to the congregation to share any thoughts or reflections, which is rarely a good idea. But anyway, at one point, a woman stood up. She began sharing the problems she had with, quote, society's representation of the devil, quote, specifically referencing the hilarious Match.com ad, which was directed by Ryan Reynolds, which, side note, I looked at this commercial because he conveniently linked to this. I had never seen this ad before, and I indeed agree that it was hilarious. It was directed by Ryan Reynolds, and it's a Match.com ad where the devil matches with the year 2020, who is personified as a woman. So the devil and 2020 go out on a date. And it shows like a dumpster fire, and it shows just like she's like hoarding toilet paper. It's like super. I found it funny. This lady, though, clearly did not find that funny. So back to the Yobbers comment. I can't remember now what the pastor's sermon was about, but I do remember thinking in the moment that her points were not really relevant. She then went on to list other problems she had with American culture, such as its general turn towards atheism, how Christians are often mocked in the media, and here was the clincher, how, quote, gay people are always portrayed as nice. Quote. I honestly didn't hear anything else she said after this. I was furious. Though it would be several more months before I discovered and joined Yob, I had more or less adopted a side B stance and was getting more comfortable with viewing my sexuality in this way. But hearing this barb from a fellow Christian, even one I didn't know, cut deep. The vitriol in her voice was clear. Did she seriously think gay people shouldn't be nice? Was she aware that there are Christians who wrestle with same-sex attraction but have committed to a posture of singleness and celibacy? I honestly thought about walking out of the service right then and there. The only thing stopping me was the presence of my parents. I didn't want them to think something was wrong. So y'all, why are gay people so nice? What is that about? That was new to me. I was like, when I saw that, I was like, whoa, gay people are nice. What is that about? Man.
I feel like there's plenty of portrayals of gay people being nasty. Don't you think?
Her problem was gay people are too nice. And it's a farce, apparently.
They're portrayed as being nice.
She needs to watch RuPaul or Fire Island or something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. More Bo and Yang.
I was just... Man, for that to happen when his parents were visiting too, that like added a level of cringe to it, where it's like your parents are also there. Like, oh my gosh, that's just so brutal. Yeah, when you open the floor to the congregants, I love how he put that side note. Rarely a good thing. Just let the pastor do his thing, you know?
Yes.
Oh, all right. Another Yobber gave us this story. In the church I grew up in, there always seemed to be a few individuals who were consistently uncomfortable with the way I expressed myself, whether it was the passion and liveliness I displayed while leading singing, which according to them means you're trying to draw attention to yourself rather than to the Lord, or the tasteful shirtless post I made on Instagram one time to accompany a post I was making about body insecurity and the media's ridiculous standards for men's beauty, which according to them was not appropriate for a Christian to be posting. These people themselves were not the problem, but rather the way they handled these grievances. Instead of coming to me about any of this, they went to the elders of the church. And rather than the elders correcting these individuals to follow the command given by Jesus in Matthew 18, they passed on an anonymous message to me, refusing to tell me who expressed these concerns. In the case of the Instagram post, one elder even backed up the said individual and tried to force me to take down my post. But I refused and stood my ground for my brothers worldwide who needed to know that they were not alone. Instead, I became more passionate, more outspoken, more authentically me. In 2018, my family had had enough. We were not growing spiritually. We were hurt. We felt like we didn't belong. Several families before us had left this church to go to a much healthier one 20 minutes away of the same denomination. So we followed suit and we've never looked back. And then here's the part of the comment that I wanted to toss to you guys. Because he says this: sometimes in reflection, I feel a twinge of guilt for leaving them, thinking, what if God wanted me to stay there so I could continue to be an example and be a part of the solution to the problem? But at the same time, I was still coming to terms with my sexuality and its relation to my faith. And there isn't a single person in that church that I would have felt comfortable bringing into that conversation. And that fact by itself speaks volumes. Yeah, I mean, I think he brings up an interesting comment, an interesting point to consider. It's like, where could we be part of the solution to church hurt, to people who just don't understand and need the education and need the story, need our stories, versus where do you have to protect yourself and where do you have to get out and draw the boundary and draw the line? Because yeah, I don't think there's a neat and clean answer for every person, but I love that he's at least considered that and recognized that based on the facts that there's no way he could have done that. But I don't know, is that something that y'all have thought about? Like, whatever uncomfortabilities or whatever hurts you've been in the church, like, is there a way for you to be part of the solution, or is it better to just self-eject?
I think one person with coming from a minority point of view, I think what it takes for the change to occur is truly the Holy Spirit to come and to move in that church body. I don't think, I wouldn't encourage anyone to stay there and think that my voice is going to be what makes a difference here, because I'm trying to think of a good way to say this. Like, if you really believe that you're going to bring down the Holy Spirit and bring revival, in this church context, like, yeah, heck yeah, stay and pray for it and work toward it and do it and expect it to happen. But I don't think everyone is called to that, and I don't think there's anything to feel guilty about for moving from like truly bad soil to like good soil. But I think, and this is something I wanted to kind of talk about, I think that there's a whole spectrum of these experiences and there's a whole spectrum of these situations, and it really takes a lot of discernment to figure out, where on the spectrum does this fall and what should my response be? When I talk about a spectrum, I think about like on, some of these stories are about what I would call church disappointment, like the church wasn't as good as it should have been, wasn't as good as it's called to be. And I'm disappointed and I'm frustrated about that. On the other end of the spectrum, there's real actual like trauma and abuse and really dark, like that deep end of the pool gets really dark. And there's kind of everything in between. And yeah. And so, what you don't hear on that spectrum is the perfect church. Like the church lived up to everything and it was great. End of story. Was it Kierkegaard who said, if you find the perfect church, don't go, you'll just mess it up. So like, I think, yeah, at the end of the day, like I would kind of encourage anyone in any walk of life in any aspect of the church or just life in general, just buckle up for a lot of disappointment, and that's kind of like got me through a lot of disappointment with my church. But somewhere along that spectrum, you run into like, yeah, buckling up for the disappointment isn't going to cover this. And I really am called to steward my potential in my life in a way that this church isn't going to be like, supporting me and walking with me in. And so maybe I need to like see if there's a better way to steward that in my life. It sounds like this Yobber made a good decision.
I love that so much, how you just explained that, Ryan, that everyone needs to examine their own situation. And there's this, spectrum here where some of this stuff is maybe very hurtful, but people of all walks of life in the church, where we all are struggling and we're all failing with one another, and people outside of our community are struggling in church. But then there's a point, like you said, where it moves into some really dramatic stuff. Yeah, and you need to get some help, get out and get some help. And it's hard to say, to look at anybody's situation and label it as one thing. I think there's so much wisdom. There's so much wisdom in considering that. You guys know what I'm currently, like, not talking about past tense, but present tense for me, what I'm struggling with related to church is I'm a middle-aged, single, gay man in church, and I'm finding that I really don't know what to do other than just attend and confess my sins and take communion with my brothers and sisters, which is beautiful. And then to kind of like roll on out and love the people God's given me. If that makes sense, I'm really insecure. I find that no one really knows what to do with me. When in my 20s, I was just, everybody had all this, when you're in your 20s, everybody has anticipation for you. Oh, the potential that you have, right? And then, but you get up, the closer you get to 40, you're just kind of like this middle-aged, single gay man whose beard is turning white. And what do we even do with you? I mean, we love you and we speak with you, but, and so all I want to say is, I'm not saying this is definitely not on the trauma end of the spectrum. I'm being on, this is, but I'm just saying where my current hurt is like, I feel a little lonely. I'm like, well,
yeah,
I don't know. What am I doing here?
Yeah. Where there's not clarity and where there's confusion, your mind is trying to connect dots to be like, okay, what is the purpose then? Where's the plot? You feel like you've lost the plot as far as like, what is your role in this particular church body? And that's a natural confusion, a natural frustration there.
My heart goes out to guys listening to us, or guys in our community, a lot of them who they walk up the steps to their church every week alone. And some of them may sit with a lot of people, or they may sit with somebody different every week. And some of them sit alone. And going to church alone is one of the hardest things, I think, that people have to do on a weekly basis. And it doesn't mean they're alone in their whole lives, but sometimes just kind of feeling other there can be hurtful every single week. And so my heart goes out and sending love and prayers and hugs and kisses to all the guys who are every week or every Sunday morning are getting up and saying, I want to go and sing about the goodness and graciousness of God with brothers and sisters, even if sometimes it's hard to put one foot in front of the other and go.
Mm-hmm. For all the gruesome stories of church hurt in our community, I count myself among the blessed. I haven't seen what others in our midst have seen, haven't felt what they've felt, haven't suffered as they've suffered. And I also don't want to downplay or minimize my own hurts with the church. It may not have been abuse, it may not have been some big T trauma, but it wasn't good either. It wasn't joyful, it wasn't life-giving. It wasn't what a timid, anxious, shame-ridden teenager should have experienced in a church, in a youth group. For about 5 years, my family attended a large Southern Baptist church after moving from the north to the south, a drastic cultural change. We attended both Sunday morning services as well as the Sunday morning youth groups, me and my siblings. For 5 years, I was alone in that youth room, hardly approached by the other teens, occasionally approached by the youth pastor who made some jokes with me or asked how I was doing, but otherwise seemed oblivious. Always sitting by myself, never talking to the other kids, like he had to have noticed that, right? As it stands, I was never invited into any kind of meaningful participation. I always just grabbed a donut from the long row of tables and sat by myself, Sunday after Sunday, month after month, year after year. For a church our size, I was always surprised and definitely disheartened that there were rarely, if ever, any boys in my grade, as if I needed additional reasons not to integrate in a group this size. I had no obvious group to go to or be with. After singing some songs and a brief message from the youth pastor, we were dispersed into small groups, organized by our grade and our gender, with adult leaders at each table. And for at least a year or two, I was alone. I was placed at a round table with just one adult leader because there were no other boys in my grade. And to this day, I still don't understand why this occurred, why this would be permissible when all the other tables in the room were always occupied, were always populated with at least a couple students. Eventually, my so-called group was combined with the grade of boys above me, but I never had a chance of connecting with them. Even if I had been grouped with them from the start, I doubt I would have had a chance. They never acknowledged me, never said a word to me. I just had to play along. After a few years of playing along, I couldn't play along anymore. My parents dropped me and my siblings off in the morning, and after grabbing a donut and pretending like I was there, I took off, just left. I played hooky from youth group. Some days I literally sat in a bathroom stall for over an hour waiting for youth group to end, for church to begin. Other days I'd get adventurous and stretch my legs and wander the streets downtown, waiting for youth group to end. And through it all, I don't ever remember feeling sad. On the contrary, whenever I left youth group, whenever I went to the bathroom or walked outside, I felt like I could actually breathe, rather than feel clenched up, practically breathless. It felt revitalizing to self-eject from that place, that arena, to take control of my loneliness rather than succumb to that loneliness in the youth room. I look back on those years of my life and just feel so sad. It shouldn't have ever been that way. Of all the places to feel the crippling weight of loneliness, the church. And this was long before I even began to process my sexuality. That was nowhere near the forefront of my mind. This loneliness was just being a kid for all the other reasons. A Christian kid who had just moved to a new state, a new city, a new region of the country. Someone who desperately wanted friends in the church. Someone who loved the Lord. Someone who desperately wanted friends in the church but never found one. Not one. Throughout my 30s and these recent years of my life, I've attended and partaken in various therapeutic and men's work environments. And at multiple junctures and multiple different groups of men with multiple leaders, I've been encouraged to befriend my little boy, my former self, this boy within, that innocent adolescent still here and still now, a boy who is left out and lonely, particularly in these Christian environments like churches or Christian schools, my own home, the greater church and ministries at large. I want to wrap my adult arms around this little boy and hold him close and tell him it's going to be okay. That one day he will find friends, guy friends, amazing friends, who will love him in ways that he isn't being loved right now, isn't even being seen right now. To hurt with my little boy as he hurts. And I know we'll dive more into the redemptive side of church hurt in our follow-up episode. But for now, I think it's noteworthy that there is one definitive redemptive thing about hurt. And it is this ability, this newfound empathy to hurt with others too. To hurt with others who hurt, even perhaps especially as we hurt with our own selves. In preparation for this conversation, our podcast crew discovered the song Church Hurt, fittingly titled by an artist named Hannah Kerr. And I'll link the song in our show notes for you to listen to later, but I wanted to read the lyrics here. And if nothing else, I just want us to know we're not alone, that we weren't the only ones and aren't the only ones to have experienced hurt in the church. A place that's supposed to be for life. A place that we've encountered death and pain and sorrow. The lyrics read as follows. It's supposed to be a safe place to fall, where you walk in with your shame and walk out whole. Bring in all your burdens and get help. Love God and love your neighbor as yourself. But now we hide all the brokenness we feel. Do we hurt the ones that Jesus wants to heal? Is it a place where anyone is welcome? Even if we don't all look the same, didn't Jesus show us how to be a family instead of leaving people hopeless in their pain? When did we start making you feel unworthy? When did we stop giving love, showing mercy? Are we sinners in a glass house throwing stones? Do we do it so nobody else will know that we stumble and we struggle to show the love of Jesus first? Is that what makes the church hurt? And so, fellow sparrows, those of you who have indeed seen new life and new joy on the other side of your church hurt, and those who still feel the sting of those wounds from pulpits and pews alike, the disappointment and the frustration, the neglect, the ill-spoken words, and also the derision, the abuse, trauma. May you hear and know and feel the truth of a Savior who weeps with you. A Savior who himself was cast out of his hometown, rejected and violated by his own people. A suffering Savior who suffered and indeed suffers with us. May our brother Jesus be a reassurance, a balm, a nearness in our darkest days, when the loneliness and rejection and abuse at the hands of our fellow believers pierce us and reverberate loudest. Let us not look years down the road, wondering whether we can ever again trust a church, let alone ever again attend one. Just for today, may we experience Christ's presence here, now. May each of us feel free, utterly unhindered, to hurt with a Savior who also hurts, a Savior who welcomes every tear, who knows the weight of each one. May we befriend our little child within, drawing near to them, holding them close, letting them weep into our chest, honoring their pain. For as we draw near to our own broken hearts, may we grow in our capacity also to draw near to others who hurt, hurting from the woundings of this same spiritual body we share, the church. And may we serve for one another as some spiritual immune system of sorts for our siblings, healing our infected parts, bringing wholeness once again to our broken hearts. With faith, we wait and yearn for this healing. But for now, we hurt. And if one of us hurts, let all of us hurt together. Yeah, and so I think as all of these comments came in, I mean, this was a unique topic because it it didn't invite quick and easy, like, oh yeah, this happened to me in one sentence, in two. It invited like a lot of deeper stories, and so I feel honored that we could read them, recite them, kind of riff on them, and share some of our thoughts and how they landed in our stories too. But then recognizing as this episode progressed that devoting enough time for the healing, because there's all these stories too of healing that people in our community have experienced, and God, praise God for all of those stories too. And so I think what'll be interesting, we haven't done a good old 2-part episode. I mean, we haven't done many YOBcasts lately, but like I can't remember the last time we did a 2-part YOBcast episode. We've done that a few times in our history, and I think it'd be really cool to kind of let us settle with the hurt in this episode, acknowledge the hurt, not just cover it over or slap a Jesus sticker on it and be like, all right, just pray more or whatever, and make quick and easy answers out of it. But then to in our next episode, dive into the stories of healing and how God is continuing to work in all of these hard stories. And I'm sure many of them are still TBC, to be continued, to be decided. It's still in process. I'm sure there's a lot of stories I've heard out there also that are still in process. Many other guys who probably didn't share something that they could have, that there's not a resolution yet. And that's okay too. We're here to support everyone in whatever state they're in. But I don't know, I guess I just wanted to close, I guess, with, we're all part of the church. We are the church. I think it's such a beautiful thing when, despite whatever neglect or abuse or trauma, big T, little t, or disappointment and frustration we've gone through, that there's still this desire to be with other people like us, other believers. Like, I think that is such a beautiful thing. And I hope anyone out there who, if you've been burned once, twice, 12 times, 13 times, like, I don't know, I hope you can, at the very least, start with us as a community. But like, I just think it's such a beautiful thing when you can find that wherever you live, a group of people. Call it a church, or call it a community group, or call it, call it whatever you want. But a group of believers who are walking a journey with you, I think, is such an important thing to find and have.
Yeah. And when we talk about that spectrum from like disappointment to trauma and abuse, like, I think all of these stories, wherever they fall on that spectrum, are important to talk about and important to share those stories. And our feelings, our responses to those situations are all valid and important to recognize and talk about as well. So I'm very thankful for all the Yobbers who shared all their stories about church hurt.
And so, dear listeners, if you have a story to lend, the floor is yours. Much like the pastor yielding to the congregation and letting everyone share. You can go to our website, leave us a comment, yourotherbrothers.org, and tell us your church hurt story, whether it's resolved or whether it's not resolved. If it happened and it still hurts, or if you found some healing too, you're welcome to share that story with us. We would be honored to receive that and have that on the episode page for this 110 episode on church hurt. So yeah, 111, we'll follow up on this. This is kind of an impromptu decision. I kind of, just felt like we had so much feedback. It'd be a shame to kind of squish it all together in this one episode. And we'll reserve some space for church healing in our next episode, 111. And thanks to Bad Church Art for adorning this conversation. Ryan, Matt, thanks for joining me on this episode. It's always just reassuring to have y'all in the room with me. So thank you for writing out this episode with all these hard stories. I appreciate y'all.
Of course.
And Ryan, Matt, I'm sorry, Matt, I hope you enjoy your brownies. I hope that fills the ache of the hurt. I hope those are good for you.
Chase it down with a cold cup of extra creamy oat milk.
Very nice. Very nice. All right, y'all. Well, we'll be back next month for the church healing episode. It's really rare that I get to announce what the next episode's going to be. So stay tuned for church healing on the heels of church hurt. And we'll tie a bow on this episode. Thanks to all the Yobbers out there for your vulnerability, for sharing. We love you. We're glad you're with us. We're glad you are the church here with us. For all your other brothers out there, this is Tom.
I'm Ryan.
And Matt.
Reminding each and every one of you that you are not alone. Even the sparrow finds a home. See you next time, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Your Other Brothers podcast, a production of Your Other Family. We'd love your feedback. Comment on this or any of our podcast episodes at yourotherbrothers.org. You can also call us to ask a question or share a brief story at 1-706-389-8009. If you enjoyed this or any of the shows on Your Other Family Podcast Network, consider rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app. You can also follow our family of socials on Facebook and Instagram at Your Other Fam, Your Other Bros, and Your Other Sisters, and on YouTube at Your Other Fam. Finally, if you enjoy our content, consider giving to support our nonprofit ministry. Check out our YOF giving link in the episode description for membership in our Yob and YOS communities. Submit an inquiry at yourotherbrothers.org/membership or yourothersisters.org/membership. There's always room for one more sparrow in our nest. Until we journey next time, we're glad you're with us.
your other family.